So we have an execution that took place within Florida. I have an article here and let's get into it. It says man who killed two women he met a day apart in North Florida bars in 1996 is put to death. Okay, they actually did execute him. Okay, let's get into it. A man who killed two women after meeting them a day apart in North Florida bars in 1996 was put to death on October 3rd, 2023. Okay, that's actually the day I'm recording this. Michael Zack III, 54 years old, was pronounced dead minutes after 6:14 p.m. following a lethal injection at Florida State Prison in Stark. The execution started promptly at 6 p.m. Zack was asked, wow, so it's completely, you were done in 14 minutes. The execution started promptly at 6 p.m. Zack was asked if he had any last words, and he answered, yes, sir. And he lifted his head to look at the witnesses and said, I love you all. He was executed. Now you may be like, oh, man, the death penalty, man. Okay, let's get into what he did before all this sympathy starts coming around. He was executed for the murder of Ravon Smith, a bar employee he befriended and later beat and stabbed with an oyster knife in June 1996. He also was convicted and separately sentenced to life in prison for murdering Laura Rosillo, who he met at another Florida panhandle bar. And also, remember, this was a different time. This was the 90s. Okay, so you may be like, oh man, safety and all that. It was a different time back then. Okay, let's continue. Zack's 9-day crime run that year began in Tallahassee, where he was a regular at a bar. When Zack's girlfriend called and said he was being evicted, the bartender offered to loan him her pickup truck. Okay, Zack left with it and he never returned. Okay, Zack drove to a bar in Niceville in the Florida Panhandle where he befriended a construction company owner. The man learned Zack was living in a pickup truck and offered to let him stay at his home. Zack later stole 2 guns and $42. At yet another bar, he met Rosillo and invited her to a beach to do tragos. He then beat her, dragged her partially clothed into the dunes, strangled her, and kicked sand over her face. The next day, he went to a Pensacola bar where he met Smith. The two went to the beach to smoke marijuana, and later she took him to the home where she shared with her boyfriend. At the home, Zack smashed her over the head with a bottle, slammed her head into the floor, raped her, and stabbed her 4 times in the center of the chest with an oyster knife. Court records show. He then stole the woman's television, VCR, and purse and tried to pawn the electronics. The pawn shop suspected the items were stolen, and Zack fled and hid in an empty house for 2 days before he was arrested. Zack, now 54 years old, admitting to killing Smith. He said he became enraged and beat her when she made a comment about his mother's murder, which his sister committed. Wow. He also said he thought Smith was going to another room to get a gun where he stabbed her in self-defense. I don't buy that at all. I think you knew what you were doing. This was not a self-defense thing. I don't think anyways, but let's continue. Zack's lawyers had sought to stop the execution, arguing that he was a victim of fetal alcohol syndrome and post-traumatic stress disorder. The U.S. Supreme Court said, that's nice, but we're not buying that at all. So you murdered these 2 women just for the heck of it. You pawned and then you stole from them. You brutally murdered them, raped them, or at least raped one of them. You tried to pawn their stuff. You got it away successfully before. You stole someone's car. Wow. And then they're going to try to get you off on the pills. Oh, well, come on. He has fetal alcohol syndrome and PTSD and he can't do it. And it's like, but you did this. Nah, man, I'm sorry. Nah. So good thing that this dude is not there anymore. I don't know. For me, I feel like when cases are cut and dry, and depending on the level and severity, okay, we ain't doing anything about you selling a gram of weed, okay? But I'm talking about in terms of the level of severity of said accusation, and it is pretty much a cut and dry case, and we know, okay, you did blah, blah, blah. I'm for the death penalty. I feel like that is something that, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're just wasting tax dollars on somebody who is just simply, I mean, they're going to be just, I mean, you're not living it up in prison. You know what I mean? Let's not get that twisted. But you're up in prison. It's like, well, we already waste enough tax dollars sending money overseas, not worrying about our infrastructure, a whole bunch of stuff that we're not doing with our tax dollars. So it's like, with our tax dollars, we're now paying for you to be alive, and you brutally murdered two people and raped her viciously, and then you were stealing. And then he said, oh, I'm sorry for doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, I was high on drugs, and weed doesn't make you do that. I'm sorry. Weed does not make you do that. So obviously you were on some other stuff. Oh, I was drinking alcohol. I was doing this. Yeah. Well, sorry. That's not my problem. Okay. There's plenty of people who have a margarita, have a Manhattan, have an old fashioned, and they're not tearing up the place. They're not committing these egregious murders. They're not committing all of these crimes. So when I look at that, I'm like, nah, that's not an excuse. And I've always said, if you're one of those people that when you drink or do the dragos, but I can only speak for drinking. If you are one of those people who drink and you get violent, I'm talking about you ready to punch people, you ready to slap somebody, you ready to do something. If you're one of those people, you need to stop it now, okay? Because if you're not a happy-go-lucky or just a calm, chill, tranquilo person, then you don't need to be doing that, okay? Because I've seen plenty of people who, whether they're on drugs or alcohol, they're drinking alcohol, which you could say is drug, but whatever, whether they're doing that and they start just belligerent, they just act belligerent and they just act in a hot mess, and it's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. Oh man, but it's fun. Yeah, but you don't know how to handle your stuff, you know what I mean? But in this case, this guy, I feel like he got what he deserved. Let me know what you all think about that. Are you guys for it? What circumstances are you not for it? Like I said, cut and dry, severe cases. Murder really is the only one. Selling weed, you know what I mean? You stole some money from someone, okay, but when you were doing like armed robbery, well, it depends on what you did. If you murdered somebody, okay, that make life for a life, that makes sense. You know what I mean? If you murdered and raped or brutally raped women or whatever you did, little kids, whatever the case may be, okay, maybe we need to start looking at the death penalty. But that's how I feel about that. Let me know what your stances are on just in general the death penalty. Do you think that somebody like him deserved it? Do you think that it should just completely not exist, be eradicated? Let me know what your opinions are. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and also leave a comment down below. I would also appreciate it if you could go on ebay.com, simply type in Latrice Limited, click on shops, and then you can support me right over there. I have a wide variety of items over there. I have many of my own personal Latrice Limited items, which has candles, bath bombs, soaps, essential oil blends, lingerie robes. I have a whole bunch of stuff. I even have comic books on there, men's ties, action figures, a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Definitely support me on there. Like I said, do not forget to like and subscribe, and thank you.